Hello and welcome everybody to the teleclass. My name is Adam Boyce and I'll be your host on the call today. Our teleclass topic for this week is titled Influence, Affluence and Abundance. So without much further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Joe to the call. Hello, Dr. Joe.
Hi, Adam. So great to be with you. This probably has been the most common request that we've gotten in reference to a teleclass topic in the last few months. I mean, we cover health quite a bit. We cover creating reality quite a bit. We cover a lot of different things around the body and the environment. But specifically, most people have been asking about this concept of how to create abundance. And I've always been hesitant talking about this because so many people have so many definitions of abundance. And I know that if I give certain things or certain clues or certain ideas or certain concepts, that many people won't take the time to do it. And if you don't do anything, you don't get anything. And so I'm going to lay out a kind of a model here of what I've learned over the years. So let's start off by taking a moment and thinking about what your definition personally of abundance is. Now, I want you to know that my definition over many years has changed dramatically, and even to this day, it continues to change. So I used to have a definition that abundance was to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, as many times as I want. It just meant an absolute state of freedom without any concerns. Some people say that abundance to them is having everything they need and plus some more, like they have more than they need. So an abundance is more than you need. Some people say that all their needs are met, which is a solid form of abundance that the universe provides. And then some people have this idea that abundance has something to do with having or getting things. Now, I don't have a problem with any of those things, but I'm going to ask each person that listens to this teleclass or who's live on the teleclass is to come up with a working definition of abundance and take your time at some point in the next couple days and write it out. Once you know what your definition of abundance is, it makes sense, then you can get it. If you don't have a clear definition of abundance, then you're not going to get clear outcomes or solid outcomes. So, number one, get clear on your definition of abundance. Number two, it's so important for you to begin to change your perception of the world. And this is so important because most people's beliefs and perceptions, for those of you who know my work, are based on past experiences. So you have a series of failures. You have a series of incidences or experiences in your life that have you draw conclusions about money, about things, about wealth, and then you feel lack, and then you see people who have it, and then you judge them, and the more you judge them, the more you're separate by polarity from having what you want. But I'm going to ask everybody that if you change the way you look at things, I swear to you, things will change. So let's talk about this, because people think that when they have something, then they are abundant. And that's actually backwards thinking. The world is an abundant, very friendly, very providing, very fruitful place. And if you can change your perception from lack, thinking that you're separate from having what you want, that everything is already here, all you have to do is walk into it or step into it. By changing your perception about of the world or your perception about abundance, you should start to see things change, because our reality is built on our beliefs and our perceptions. So think about this. Do you think that when you have something, then you're abundant, which means if you don't have something, by very definition means then you're not abundant. But that's not the definition of abundance. Abundance is that you already have that state of being within you. Now, this is the third thing. If you can define your state of being on a moment-to-moment basis, you will begin to understand that you don't create abundance, you generate abundance. And most people generate lack, most people generate separation, most people generate victimization, most people generate fear, resistance, judgment. That's what they're generating majority of the time. But if you begin to realize that in order for you to create abundance, that you have to generate abundance, you may change the way you think and feel. And if you keep thinking certain thoughts and you keep feeling certain emotions, the way you think and the way you feel will become who you are. Now, I have always said that thoughts, the electrical charge, and feelings are the magnetic charge. And that combination of thinking and feeling, your state of being, is producing a forecast. You are broadcasting information into the quantum field. So if a person spends 10 minutes of their day generating abundance, and then they spend the remainder of their day feeling like a victim or feeling separate from what they want, then their vibration isn't in alignment with their future. And there has to be a vibrational match between the energy of abundance and that particular reality that you're going to walk into. So there are so many, when we're living by the state of fear or separation or judgment or resistance or victimization or lack or whatever, the problem with this is that we go about creating the world we want in very limited ways. We push, we wish, we try, we force, we control outcomes in our life because that's the only way we think we can get what we want. And because we're looking for it in a specific way, the moment we're looking for it, we're defining reality with our senses again. And if we're defining reality with our senses, our view of the world is based on our past, present reality. In other words, people move into a state of abundance, and then they start looking to see if their bank account has changed. They start looking for things because the majority of the time, their perception moves back into a state of lack or a state of resistance. But if you were able to change your energy, which means when you change your energy, you are moving into a vibrational state that's in alignment with the future. Now you are moving from the sensory-based reality where you have to go through 3 dimensions to get what you want, dragging your body around and working for a living and saving money and doing all of that. That's what most people do in their normal life, to a quantum-based reality, which is based on nonsense, which is based on not using your senses to define reality. You're using your energy and your vibration and your state of being from a moment-to-moment basis to call reality to you, to bring reality to you. So then think about this. When you're experiencing those states of lack, it means that you don't have what you want, and which means you are not in that state of being. You are actually in the old state of being, which is the same idealism that you are in lack or you're separate from what you want. So then when people do this, they start looking for the things they want in their life. They start trying to predict when it's going to happen. And once they start looking and they realize that they don't have it, of course, they go back to their old state. And so the paradox is, if you keep changing your energy and practice changing your energy, and you do it initially with your meditations and you do it initially with moving into a new state of being with your eyes closed, then the next step is in your waking day, practice doing it with your eyes open. And so what energy are you living your life with? Are you living your life in a state of passion? Are you living your life in a state of bliss? Are you living in a state of inspiration? Are you living in a state of trust or invincibility? Because if you're in these elevated states, it means then you're at a faster vibration. And the faster the vibration, the higher the energy, the more you are a magnet to creating evidence in your life. So in these elevated states, when you're passionate and you're blissful and you're inspired, it's difficult to analyze and think. Because the moment you start analyzing and thinking from these elevated states, you lose it. The moment you do it, you start to lose it. So take away from this, define your state of being. Practice your state of being. Move into that state of being where you are generating abundance. Then pay attention to when you fall from grace, when you feel victimized, when you feel lack, when you feel separation. And it doesn't mean you have to stay there. Become conscious and realize when you're in those states, you have very limited ways to get things to happen in your life. You are matter trying to change matter. Once you're able to lock into that state and it's becoming familiar to you, practice it with your eyes open. Practice it in your car. Practice moving into that state of being when you're taking a shower, when you're taking a bath, when you're sitting down for a minute or standing on line. Practice moving into that state of being on a moment-to-moment basis. And by doing that, you are beginning to create affluence, which we'll talk about in a bit, which means you're not going anywhere to get what you want. You are bringing that experience to you. So now, this is another key element with most people. When they practice abundance and they move into that state of being, they lose the present moment quite a bit. And it's going to require you staying present. When you're present in your creative process, you are connected to something greater. When you are impatient, when you are frustrated, when you are controlling, when you are trying to make things happen your way, it means it's not happening fast enough, and you are trying to overlay or create some next moment immediately to take away the feeling of lack or the feeling of impatience or the feeling of frustration. Now, why is this relevant? Because all potentials in the quantum field exist in the present moment, and because the brain is an anticipation machine, most people are always saying, okay, well, now I generated a state of abundance, so where is it? And they start getting impatient. And then when it doesn't happen, they start getting frustrated. And then when they get frustrated, they start accusing and blaming other people. And it's never their fault or never their responsibility. It's always somebody else outside of them. So practice staying present in your day. And if you're moving into a state of abundance, you have to be present in order to do that. If you notice you start doing that, stop for a moment and reconnect again. So what are the emotions then that disconnect us? Well, it's very obvious. All of those emotions are derived from the hormones of stress. And when we're living in stress, we are living as materialists. And we will go back to defining reality with our senses. And when we do that, we get in trouble because we only have limited resources to get what we want. So people compete, they manipulate, they cheat, they lie, they do whatever they can to get what they want because they feel disconnected from that quantum field. So in your waking day, in order for you to begin to create effects in your life, you have to keep the energy vibration of abundance at a constant. And the more you keep it as a constant and the more you've made the connection in your mind, by doing that, you'll begin to see a flow happening in your life. You'll begin to see some things moving and changing. That's the sign there's a vibrational match between you and where you're going. So then, if you can notice the moments and the thoughts that limit your vibration, then you can begin to make significant changes. And what are those? Most people say, they don't do this consciously a lot of times. They say, well, it's not here yet. I don't see it. So the moment they don't see it, they feel lack, and when they feel lack, they get discouraged, and then they don't believe it. Or sometimes things don't go exactly how you want, and I've had this happen to me so many times. Things go wrong, and when they go wrong, your intentions are thwarted, and then people give up, or they draw a conclusion, or they say, it isn't working. They have expectations sometimes that are unfulfilled because they wanted it to work out a certain way, and it doesn't work out a certain way. People start comparing themselves to others, or they start judging others who have what they want, and those states of judgment, of course, stops the flow. So, point is, allow. Start flowing down the river. And if you can flow, and you can trust, and you can stay loose and stay free, you are going to keep your energy moving. It's when you start judging and resisting, and when you start comparing and analyzing, that you block the flow. Allow yourself moments where you just allow things to unfold, and it may not be the way you expect. That just means you're in the unknown. Now, study abundant people. This is so important because most people weren't always abundant. Their life was a series of failures, and if you truly study abundant people, they learned from their experiences, they learned from their mistakes, and as you begin to study the personality traits, the qualities, the characteristics, the things that they did in their life, the sacrifices they made that built their character, that built the qualities of success, that built a strong personality, you will learn that their life was their initiation, that they had several things to learn before they could step in to abundance. So then, if a book mysteriously shows up, read it, and read it until you become it. Don't rush through it. Think about the person that you're studying. Think about what they did. Think about how you can apply those same things to yourself in your life. And then the next most important thing is once you start having some of those ideas, take some action every day. If you're moving into a state of being and you're changing your thoughts and feelings, it's time to take a risk. And if you don't take any action, then you don't believe in your future, period. But what are you bringing into your future? What are you bringing to the meeting? What are you bringing to the appointment? What are you bringing to the emails? All right, what kind of energy are you bringing? Because if you're going there in a state of apathy or in a state of resistance, you're not bringing the energy into your future. So make moves in your life as if you are doing it from a place where you already are your future. In other words, when you step into a future, think about if you were already that person, how would you act? And this is a great example. So many people are in such a state of lack, in such a state of separation, that they spend hours saying in their affirmations, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant. They're thinking the thought, but their body isn't in alignment with the thought. Their feeling isn't in alignment with their thoughts. So if your thinking is the vocabulary of the brain, and your feeling is your vocabulary of your body, and you're feeling separation, you're feeling frustration, and you're thinking thoughts that I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, it makes sense then that thought is never going to pass your brainstem and begin to signal your body to move into a state of being. So if you're starting to make the decisions in your life as if you were already doing it from that future state of being, you would probably do it more calmly, more smoothly, without arrogance, without rushing, without pushing. You would kind of be in a different state because you already are that person, and the choices that you're making and the things that you're doing have so much less to do with urgency and vigilance. It has much more to do with your state of being. So then you have to begin working your way by step into your future. And if you start taking action, means then it's not just that you do it and it comes to you and you can sit on your couch or you can sit in the bathtub or you don't have to get a job. That's the very extreme example of fanaticism. What I'm talking about is that you have to begin to meet your dream halfway. It means that you have to lean into it a little bit. That means then you got to bring your body into your future. You have to take your body into your future. So once you're in a state of being, once you're in that state and you start thinking about the actions you want to take, you have to begin to meet your dream halfway, which means you're going to start having to make some choices, and those choices are going to be as if you were already there. Try it out. I swear to you, when you step into the unknown, in the beginning it'll feel uncomfortable, but you will be in a very different place in your day than when you started out doing the same things and thinking the same way. At the end of the day, and I always do this, learn from your mistakes and self-correct. In other words, where did you fall from grace? Where did you begin to go unconscious again? What did you do that was acting like a person that was in lack instead of a different person? If your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, then it's time to know the old self really well. Write down every thought that you think that stands in the way between you and your future. And if you can't memorize them and you can't repeat them and you can't know them, then they're going to slip by your awareness. I swear to you, if you take the time and list them out, the moment that thought comes up, it's going to be like recognizing an old friend. You're just going to notice it, and it's not going to make it past your analytical mind. Become aware of how you speak, what you say. Become aware of how you act. Whatever that action is, whatever you're doing, whether you're complaining or frustrated or angry or lashing out or judging, become aware of those actions. Those actions are not an abundant person. Look at the emotions also. If you're feeling lack, a wealthy person doesn't feel lack. A wealthy person feels pretty relaxed in the present moment. And begin to become so conscious of that 95% of who you are. To know yourself, you are leaving that person behind, and you are taking the skills, the great habits, the good attitude, the positive actions and emotions into your future, but you can't take everything that has to do with the old self. Which brings me to the next point. It wouldn't be a bad idea to start writing down the thoughts that a wealthy person does think, a healthy person in their management of money, how they execute. Look at their actions. Look at the emotional states that they live by and spend a part of the day living as that person. Practice being it. Practice being it when you're standing. And you don't have to do anything except move into a state of being. Practice being it when you're walking. Practice being it when you're sitting at the dinner table, sitting in your car, sitting waiting for somebody. Practice it when you lie down. Imagine, close your eyes and move into a state of being where you are that person. And before you fall asleep, program your subconscious into that state. The subconscious loves fairy tales, so you might as well tell a great fairy tale when you're laying down. If you know your old self so well, like a friend, I swear to you, you will be able to counsel it. You'll be able to counsel it from the new self. So becoming very conscious of your unconscious states, the more conscious you are of that, the less you are the old self, and the more you're crossing that river. So if you just take the time to write down any thought, any action, or any emotion that keeps you connected to your old self, and you can review them. If someone said, what was the old self that you used to live by? And you could say, I used to think I used to think money never was easy to come by. I used to think that life was really hard, the universe didn't really like me, that I wasn't worthy of receiving. I complained a lot, I blamed everybody else for my life. If you have that kind of level of clarity, it means now you're no longer that person. You are the person on the other side crossing the river that's aware of that person, and you will move further and further away from it. Now, the next point has to do with affluence. And affluence means that you've created enough influence with yourself and enough influence in your life that now you are worthy to receive the feedback from your efforts. You can't wait for this to happen. You can't pray for this to happen. You can't wish for this to happen. You can't hope for this to happen. This is when you let go and you start to give. And whatever you start to give, you will receive. And so when you begin to give as an abundant person, I don't care if it's even just small things, but you have to start the flow by giving and taking action as if you are already abundant. If you have enough influence on yourself and your life, then affluence always comes, and it comes in the form of feedback. And if it's not happening, it's time to give. Give things away that you no longer need. I don't care what it is. Give somebody a bottle of wine. Give them something, your clothes that you no longer wear. Clean a closet and give it away. Just start giving things away to start the movement and the flow in your life. Now, I just was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and he was telling me that he was having difficulty in the creative process. And I said, well, you have one of two choices. You either create from duality or polarity, and duality or polarity means I don't have what I want, and because I don't have what I want to get what I don't have. And what most people do is they try to create from a state of not having. And because when they look to see that it hasn't appeared in their life, then of course they feel more separate from the experience and they try harder. And so many people do this. But if you are creating from a state of abundance or a state of wholeness or a state of worthiness, and I like the word worthy because worthy means you are worthy to receive. You're no longer looking for anything. You're no longer separate from anything. You actually feel like you already have it. And when you get to the point where you feel like you already have it and you're no longer looking for it, that's the moment the universe realizes that you're out of the way. You begin to draw things to you. And we call that in our work fifth dimensional creation, or fifth dimensional reality. So creating from fifth dimensional reality means you don't have to drag your body to work. You don't have to drag your body somewhere to get some kind of goal realized. In fact, you start noticing things landing in your lap, and when it starts to land in your lap, that is affluence. That means then you're in vibrational match, and the universe begins to show you signs, and that's when it starts to get exciting. Why? Because you start feeling the energy of your creation, and you start to believe in your creation more. The energy then from the experience and the emotion that's created raises your vibration. You begin to feel better, and you start to use that energy to create again. And all of a sudden, you move from a state of victimization in your life, all of a sudden into a state of creation. And of course, that's when the magic starts to happen. But you can't do that until you start getting beyond yourself. The next thing is, and I find this so important, is to cue your environment. Put little things on your dashboard. Put little notes on your mirror in your bathroom. Put little pictures of vacations you went on or cars you want to drive, or I don't care what it is. Whatever your definition of abundance is, art that you would love. Cue your environment with small little things to keep you reminded of where you're going, so that in a moment or so, while you're staring around or sitting around looking around your house in routine ways, all of a sudden that catches your attention and it breaks your routine and it changes your experience of the environment. If you begin to change your experience in your environment with small little things and cues, your environment is no longer unconsciously controlling how you think, act, and feel. So then the next thing is, and I find this so important, you got to take time for yourself, because who you surround yourself with that reaffirms or reminds you of your lack, reminds you of your present state of being, is not in alignment frequency-wise with your future. So why don't you spend time with people who are in your future, which means even if you don't have the access to that person, study them in an interview on the internet. Technology allows you to begin to understand other people's minds. Half an hour a day of being turned on by somebody's success story, half an hour a day of listening to somebody who has everything and then some, you'll find out all they want to do is give back. Big hint. I think just a little bit of time with breaking away from your routine life and spending time by yourself and reviewing your goals, reviewing your vision, reviewing your dream, reviewing what it is, thinking about some steps you have to take, changing your energy, getting fired up, and just doing it every day. You're basically growing a garden. And I love to do it because it's a way that I enjoy my own company. And then all of a sudden, when you step out into your world, you're different. You feel differently, you're thinking differently, you're seeing things differently than everybody else, or at least differently than your old self. Now, here's a very important thing that I know from experience. If you are going to be worthy of abundance, then you have to be ready to be initiated into abundance and not victimized. Because when you start this journey and you begin the process, be ready for many things to begin to crumble or fall apart. And as things begin to break down and things don't go your way and people betray you or things are stolen or your bank account somehow goes south or whatever it is, be ready that you have to understand that that is a breaking down of the old. And you should never see it from a state of victimization, because the moment you see it from a state of victimization, then you're not taking 100% responsibility for your life. And being an abundant person is taking 100% of responsibility for your life in every area of your life. So you're starting at a certain level of mind, and you want to reach another level of mind called a consistent state of abundance, which means then as you begin to hit those obstacles in your life, you have to back up and think about what level of mind you could meet that initiation from so that you can overcome that obstacle, learn from the experience, produce an outcome, but get ready. There's going to be another one, and there's going to be another one, and there's going to be another one. And as you begin to overcome each one of these, you begin to become initiated into abundance. But if you're seeing it from a state of victimization, if you're seeing it from a state of lack, if you're seeing it from a state of loss or whatever, then you can guarantee then the moment you do that, you just return back to your old self, and the flow literally goes away, literally disappears. So if you understand then you're going to be initiated into abundance, and you're going to make mistakes, and things aren't going to go perfectly, and things aren't always going to go your way, that's a very healthy view of the way it occurs. It really begins to help you see that it's about the journey, because we all have blind spots, and being able to learn from our mistakes and those blind spots being revealed helps us to round out the personality of abundance. So set some reasonable goals for yourself. Set a short-term goal. Set a long-term goal. Those goals then always allow you to stay in alignment with your vision or your purpose, like you want to create something, and begin the process of creating them. If you can chunk it down into smaller things, like in 2 weeks I have this done, in 3 weeks I have this done, in a month I'd like to be here, and have those small, simple things be reasonable. You have to accomplish a series of small-term goals before you can reach large and bigger goals. Why? Because small-term goals allow your behaviors to stay in complete alignment with your intentions or with your vision or your purpose. And then, of course, if you keep your conscious mind on what you want, your subconscious mind will take you there. In other words, if you see what you want, you will get what you see. And so if you're looking at what you want and you keep your attention on it, you will finally get, or you will begin to become outpictured in your life, and you will get what you see. If the majority of your time you are seeing what you don't want, then you will keep creating the exact outcome in your life. So take time to begin to think about what you're seeing and commit to the journey of never-ending self-improvement. You have to understand that this is an ongoing journey. As you become more abundant, as you become more successful, I guarantee you that the problems and challenges will never stop. They'll just change. And as they change, it means you're ready for a greater level of initiation. And when you begin to allow yourself reaching greater levels of self-improvement because you've put time and energy into taking with you what is worth taking with you and leaving behind what isn't, and you're willing to let go of certain things, as you begin to grow and you begin to change, the challenges will change always. And people think that once they arrive at a certain level of wealth or a certain level of abundance, it means then that they've arrived and there aren't any challenges, there aren't any things that they have to be preoccupied with. And the truth is that they just keep changing. So I'm going to stop here, but I'm going to talk more about it, not in the next month, because next month is a Q&A, but the month after we will continue our study in abundance. And I'm going to urge the audience to begin to practice some of these things. It doesn't take much time. Some of the principles you already know because we've been practicing them in our workshops. But the execution of putting it all together should begin to produce outcomes in your life. That's affluence because it comes to you. So Adam, let's open the call up for some questions, and we'll get in as many as we can.
The first person I'd like to call on today is Janet. Janet, you're on the mic.
Thank you so much. Dr. Joe, this is amazing. I was going to ask how to connect to your workshops because they're so expensive. And I see that the people who can come and who can afford it are living in a lot of abundance. And I don't know how to get there in order to afford to come to your work so that I can keep growing.
Is that a question?
Well, in a way it is, because you picked this topic of abundance. So now I'm trying to figure out how I can connect to the things that you said so that I can make it to your workshops. Could you help me make a link?
Absolutely. It's very simple. First of all, I don't think that our fees are high for a workshop. I think our fees are reasonable when we look at other workshops and events that people do around the world. I feel like we're customary and reasonable and within decent and fair fee. Secondly, it's very simple. If you apply some of the things that I talked about and you begin the process and you're open to how it will come in your life and making the effort to not see it as expensive, to not see it as something that you can't reach or arrive at, and beginning some of the steps I've talked about, I think that it'll help you get there. Now, we also have scholarships that we offer people. We have a foundation called Give to Give, and that foundation allows people who don't have the money or the resources for one reason or another to submit an application. And we have a board that reviews all the scholarship applications. I have no participation act. And then those people are chosen, they go into a lottery, and every single progressive workshop that we do, there are people that are on scholarships from the Give to Give Foundation and their scholarships from our company Encephalon that allows them to have access to the material. So if you feel like you need to come and you haven't created the resources, then I would suggest that you go to Give or make an effort to get a scholarship, and we do provide quite a bit. We provided quite a bit for some of our last events we did around the world, and last one in Toronto, we had people there as well.
Thanks for your question, Janet. Isaiah, you're on the call.
Yes, sir. My question is, I'm down here in the great state of Texas. I noticed in Houston, but I do plan to attend hopefully in Florida, I think in January you have. But here's my question. In the meantime, as I'm reading and I'm actually trying to do the work, how can I monitor myself to know if, I know during the meditation you say that I'm not supposed to get up until I'm a different person, but how do you really know that you're doing this right? I'm a novice at meditating. Not until I read Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself that I began to try, and I'm in the middle of You Are the Placebo right now. So, and I've purchased the meditations as well. So, but I just don't know if I'm doing it right.
Isaiah, I totally appreciate your question, and thanks for even making an attempt to do the work. So let's answer this a few different ways. We do come to Texas. Typically, the city we come to is Austin. And for the last couple of years, we've been doing progressive workshops in Austin, and we try to get through there once a year. So that's the first point about Texas. We've done in the past a few in Dallas, but we try to get through Austin at least once a year. Now, let's demystify this. You ever watch a football game or a sporting event and you get up and you feel pumped up or excited or overjoyed, or you're feeling lifted? Or you watch a movie and the hero overcomes insurmountable odds and you're moved to tears and your heart is open and you feel inspired? Or you witness somebody do a kind act to someone else and it motivates you to start seeing people that are in need, and you start taking care of them, and you buy a homeless person a cup of coffee and you give them some money and you clean them up. You were emotionally moved in some way that changed your energy, changed your biology, it changed your physiology, it changed your chemistry, it changed your perception of yourself and the world. It opened up something for you. And it is in that state where we feel connected to a community, we feel connected to one another, we feel connected to possibility, we feel like we believe in something good instead of believing in things always going wrong. Now, those are short and momentary effects that people have from something outside of them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Things outside of us change how we feel inside of us, and that's how we grow. And then when we feel differently inside of us, we look to see who caused it or what caused it. So as you begin to feel emotionally different because of some external experience, depending on how severe or elevated or intense the emotion is, the moment you're feeling differently than your normal self, the brain takes a snapshot, a picture, and that's called a memory. But I'm asking people to do the exact opposite. I'm asking them to create an internal experience without relying on anything outside of them. So when they start falling in love with the future, when they start falling in love with an outcome, the movie picture, the witnessing of the kind act, the television sporting event, is no longer external. It's actually your brain running a film. It's your brain running a series of images. And those images then begin to produce emotions because the thought in your mind becomes an experience. So if experience enriches the brain, then you're beginning to install circuitry. If you're reviewing the behaviors you're going to do in one day, the act of rehearsing them begins to install the neurological hardware. Now your brain is moving neurologically from living in the past as a record of the past to becoming a record of the future. And then if you're feeling unlimited, if you're feeling invincible, and you're witnessing your own self cross the finish line, witnessing your own self being so abundant that you're giving away 10% of your earnings and you're making a difference in so many people's lives. If you're falling in love with your own personal life in a certain way that's not even a reality yet, but it's in your future, you're beginning to emotionally condition your body from living in the past to living in the future. So if you do this properly, you'll get up the same way as watching a sporting event. You'll get up the same way as watching a hero overcome the conditions in their life, because that hero is you. But you're no longer doing it by something outside of you. You're doing it by doing it from within you. So now you're regulating how you think and feel. If you do this properly, Asaya, and you begin to change your biology neurologically, neurochemically, hormonally, genetically, now your inner world is no longer a match with everything in your known external world. Now your inner world is ahead of your past, present reality. Your inner world, your state of being, is connected to a future reality, which means when you get up from your meditation, you feel unlimited. If you're going to create an unlimited life, you better feel unlimited. If you're going to create an inspired life, you better feel inspired. If you're going to create a magnificent life, you're going to feel magnificent. And when you feel that emotion, it's going to be connected to something in your future, that thought. So now, doing that properly means, wow, when you get up, your heart is open. When you get up, you feel empowered. When you get up, you feel like you have energy. That's our natural state of being. So then your job then, when you get up from your meditation, is you're in a different energetic field. You're in a different level of consciousness. Your energy is lifted, and now you have available energy to execute and design your day or live in your day. In other words, your brain and body look like the day already happened. But your job then is to maintain that modified state for your entire day, independent of the people in your life, the problems in your life, the conditions in your life, amount of time you have, the place you have to go, the things you have to do. All of that is no longer controlling how you think and feel. Those things are still happening, but you're in a different state of being. That means you are in your future present reality instead of your past present reality. Now, let's go a little further here. If you come to a progressive workshop, you will deepen the understanding of everything that we talk about in these teleclasses, and you will deepen your understanding by so many levels than even the books, Breaking the Habit and the Placebo, because you're getting it from 5 different ways. You're in and out of meditation. You're sharing with people. It's a very engaging process. We just did one in Toronto this past weekend, and it was a super success. People walked out of there understanding, saying, I understand it on a much more implicit and much deeper level. Now, if you come to a progressive workshop and you sign up for an advanced workshop down the road, we bring in a team of researchers where we can measure your brain and show you that you're there or that you're not there and give you the tools on how to get there. We measure when you're feeling frustrated or impatient or angry or resentful, and when you're feeling gratitude and wholeness and kindness and compassion. And we have labs where you can practice that, and we can see that you're actually able to do that by getting feedback from a machine. We're measuring your energy. We're measuring all kinds of things. So the act of doing it right requires some practice, but progressing this, you'll get the feedback to let you know when you're there and when you're not there. Now, the last point is that if you're doing it properly, then you should see feedback in your life. That's why we're doing all this, to show you how powerful you really are. And you get up, and all of a sudden you start having synchronicities. You start having opportunities. You start having doors open in your life. Now you know that it's the result of what you did. So the moment you see something show up in your life, it will happen in 1 millisecond. The moment you see that opportunity present itself to you, you're going to think this thought, I created this. That's the thought you're going to think. The moment you think that thought, I created this, is the moment you're turning the battleship around. It's the moment you're changing the hypnosis. It's the moment you're breaking the spell of feeling limited or powerless or unworthy or whatever it is. And nobody is excluded from this equation, independent of their age, their gender, their diet, their color of their skin, their culture, their sexual preference, their job, their education. It doesn't matter. That we're all connected to this field. So then when you start seeing the feedback in your life, man, you're going to pay attention to what you just did, and you're going to do it again. But you're going to do it with more confidence, more competence, more clarity, more trust, more skill, more love for what you're doing, and of course it's going to enhance your skill and enhance your belief, and the outcome is always, always worth the effort.
Ruth, you're on the call.
Oh, hello, Dr. Joe. I have one question. I wanted to ask you if you can say something concerning the relationship between the second center and the Hara or Dantian, because I have experiences when I try to let go of fear, or when I recognize that I hold on to fear because I think it gives me security. The moment I let this go, it's like I sink down into the Hara. And then I think, is this the wrong direction? Should I go up to the heart, or what is it? But it feels right to go down. I don't know if you understand.
So the question is, what is the relationship between the second center and what was the second part you said?
And the Hara or Dantian.
The Tantien, you're saying the Tantien? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, in Qigong you say Dantian.
Okay.
And in Zen you say Hara.
Okay. Let's explain it like this for those people who don't know what the Tantien is. So the Tantien is really kind of the center of gravity for the body. And let's talk about the energy centers of the body, because this will help explain things really well for people. Your first center has a tremendous amount of energy. I mean, it has a tremendous amount of energy because that's what we create offspring with. And it also roots us to the earth. It is really the source of a tremendous amount of creative energy. The second center is the channeling of that energy, the movement of that energy by overcoming certain challenges or conditions in our life. So then when the second center is tuned and it's working in alignment, in balance, we feel safety. We feel like it's safe to survive. When that center is threatened or when we're out of balance, then we start holding on and we don't take a chance and trust our creation. So people get stuck there. That's why they feel shame. That's why they feel guilt. That's why they feel fear, because they're afraid to move on. But it's really the movement, it's the flow of energy to the third center, which is overcoming the conditions in our life. And so when we overcome the conditions in our life, we have to use our will. We have to bring up a certain level of empowerment, and that's what the third center is. So then when we use our empowerment to overcome the conditions in our life and we truly accomplish it, we start to feel self-love. We start to feel joy. We start to feel kindness and compassion, and we start to really, it changes our whole state of being. We start to feel more integrated and more whole. And when we start to feel these elevated emotions, the next thing we want to do is express them. So by expressing them, we activate the fifth center. That's when the fifth center is in alignment. We're expressing love. We're expressing our truth. We're expressing our truest understanding of the world then. And, of course, that energy naturally moves into the sixth center, and our brain starts to open up in new and unusual ways, and it changes our perception of our life and ourselves, which then begins to have that energy move into the seventh center. And when that occurs, then we feel more harmonious and we feel closer to the divine. And then the side effect of that is the center above our head begins to open up, and that ka, that energy begins to come into the body, and we're worthy to receive, and all of a sudden mystical and wonderful things begin to happen to us. So then a lot of times when people are overcoming the conditions in their environment and they're letting go of fear, the energy that has been polarized or imbalanced begins to unify, and the person feels rooted in their second center. They feel rooted in their body. They feel rooted. They feel a kind of safety and security with themselves because that energy hasn't really been in alignment for too long. Now, that's just the beginning, because as that energy begins to become more unified, as that energy begins to become more balanced, then we have to move that energy. We have to use that energy. And then, of course, moving that energy up is the natural thing that should happen as a result of our evolution. So when you feel it rooted in that center, it just means then that you've done something right, and it's moving from like a pendulum swinging back and forth, through different emotional states, to kind of all of a sudden the pendulum being in a very still and balanced state. Now, once it's in a still and balanced state, it's very easy for that energy to move up because that pathway is ultimately the direction we want to move. But do I use my second center in my life? Absolutely. Do I use my third center in my life? Absolutely. Do I use my fourth center? I use all of my centers in different conditions, but the aim is to use them in a balanced and secure way, in a holistic and healthy way. So it is that process, though, when you begin to overcome some emotional state that's based in that second center, that you feel energy there, because now the energy is coherent. Now the energy is organized. Now the energy feels right. And because it feels right, now you have the ability to be able to move it, and that's exactly what you should be doing, is moving it up. So that tantien that you're feeling it in is really kind of the second center, kind of grounding and connecting the first center to the third center. And when it's aligned, a lot of energy comes out of there, and you can move your body, you can execute, you can use your body as an instrument, you can use it to move around and to execute in your life.
Thanks for your question, Ruth. So, Dr. Joe, do you have any final words for us today?
The only thing I want to say about abundance that I think is important for a close here is that if people take a little bit of time to do this, a little bit of time, they're investing, like investing into a bank account, into their own personal abundance. There's a format, there's a method to all of this. And just following certain steps to get you from one place to another is always worth the effort. Remember, if you stop believing in your abundance, then all it means then is that you stop doing the work. And of course, you believe in your past, and you believe in your limited beliefs more than you believe in your future and unlimited beliefs. So make the effort, track your changes, and when we get to part 2 of this, we'll begin to refine our skills and take it to the next level.
Now, wait for part 2. On behalf of Dr. Joe and the team, thank you for joining us today. For our legal team, I just need to mention that this teleclass session is copyrighted in 2016 by Encephalon, LLC. No part of this audio may be reproduced or transmitted in any form. Broadcasting or selling is not allowed. Thank you.